Just in from Punchbowl News this morning, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is considering a ban on lawmakers holding and trading stocks and equities if Republicans take back the House in 2022. This comes as Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff is planning to introduce legislation completely banning members of Congress and their families from trading stocks in a stark rebuke of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Democratic strategist and director at Waxman, did I say that right, Michael?
Waxman, but yeah,
Waxman.
Close enough.
Michael Starr Hopkins and partner at the CGCN Group, Sam Gadoldig, are here with us to discuss. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
And so, Sam, this comes on the heels of Nancy Pelosi at a press conference defending the right of members of Congress to participate in the free market. Seems like McCarthy has, Ossoff took that opportunity to push his legislation. McCarthy, though, getting ahead of everyone, saying that he's going to ban it if he comes in. How on earth did Democrats get outflanked here?
In a two-party system, the party in charge always has to answer for all of the warts of the weakest political position of whoever. In this case, it's Pelosi. But, I remember a couple of years back during the TARP crisis, the financial crisis, this was a Democrat initiative. The Stock Act was rammed through and kind of rolled all over Republicans that were accused of trading on stocks when they were learning about, the financial crisis. And, now we're just wearing you could take Nancy Pelosi's talking points about Spencer Backus's inside trades and put her shoes on us and us on them. And now it's our turn. So, they've been doing it forever. Both parties have done it. It's a great issue for McCarthy. It unifies the entire Republican conference. And it solidifies this like Marie Antoinette image that I think Democrats have fallen backwards into, where they appear to be a party of very elite kind of classists that I don't think they used to have, but I think there's a lot of things at play here where they're, from servants masking to Fauci's retirement package to all this stuff, they just, to AOC getting fitted for a dress while her seamstress is masked. Like they just look to Pelosi's refrigerator. This stuff is just like softballs. We're just knocking them out of the park. It's easy and it's easy politics. And McCarthy's just doing the smartest, easiest thing to unify the conference, unify the country. It's a no-brainer. It's really simple.
It should be unifying, and it should be a no-brainer. I think that context on the politics of this is super important. And Michael, I want to ask you about the politics of the negotiations here, because from my perspective, as a perpetual cynic, what Kevin McCarthy, according to Punchbowl, and this is pretty breaking news as we're discussing it, what he's doing could be much, much more watered down than the legislation that Ossoff was circulating. And again, as a cynic, my instinct is to say, well, is Kevin McCarthy jumping on this to do kind of what the Stock Act was, something that didn't have maybe necessarily the teeth that it would need to really crack down on this and to really, really prevent things like that. So would you share the cynicism that perhaps Kevin McCarthy is jumping on this to make it an issue for Republicans because the bill that Ossoff introduced, which bans not only members but their families and is a pretty tough act. Do you see potentially the cynical read on this?
Yeah, McCarthy basically stumbled into really good messaging. What Pelosi did was political malpractice. No member of Congress should be trading stock. And we saw at the beginning of COVID that Perdue and Loeffler and a couple other members in the House were accused of basically sitting in hearings and then buying and selling stock for profit while the average American was losing money. And that's exactly why people hate Congress. You shouldn't be going to Congress to make money. You should be doing the bidding of your constituents. And so I think it's smart of Ossoff to have a very strict bill. But at the end of the day, Republicans are better than Democrats at messaging. And Pelosi she dropped the ball on this one.
And Sam, when the news broke of this, you saw a bunch of kind of liberals on Twitter saying, how on earth did you guys get beaten on the issue by the dumbest person in Washington, Kevin McCarthy? And that's kind of become the Democratic idea of who Kevin McCarthy is, just this kind of himbo dunce that really you should be ashamed if you're getting outplayed by him. But we were talking just before this segment. You think they're underestimating his skill. Talk a little bit about who Kevin McCarthy is? Because if he's Speaker next year, people are going to get a much closer look at him.
McCarthy is for the Republican team at the expense of anything. He'll take any sling, he'll take any arrow that you guys have for him to protect the team. And we haven't had leaders like that since Tom DeLay, who kind of gleefully enjoyed getting the slings and arrows while he protected the moderates and the conservatives in the conference. McCarthy is for the team over everything else, and he has no agenda. His agenda is the team's agenda. His agenda is what can keep the team together. He's a very giving leader, and this caricature that I think maybe some on the left like to kind of portray him as is not accurate. It's not how his troops view him. The conference likes what he does for them. He's not trying to ram stuff down their throats from a policy perspective. He trusts his ranking members, and he'll trust his chairman when they come in and start moving legislation in the different committees. As long as it keeps the team together, McCarthy will be for it. He has no agenda other than to keep the team together and lead the team. And a lot of people might consider that that he's not smart or whatever. He's not embracing a certain ideology. His ideology is his team's ideology. So the conference is becoming increasingly more conservative. He'll become a conservative speaker. He'll move things that Jim Jordan at the Judiciary Committee wants to see moved when he passes a bill out of it. I think he's great. I think he's got a lot of testicular fortitude when it comes to taking these criticisms. I don't think he cares what you all think. I think he only cares about what his members think. And that's what I think they want in their leader. I think he's great.
Hundreds of millions of dollars have been exchanged on the stock market by our elected officials in 2021 alone. Unusual Whales released a full trading report on politicians in 2021. A lot of interesting stuff in here. Unusual Whales found that many members of Congress actually beat the market and traded more than ever before. Big legislative events like the infrastructure bill were often preceded by politicians trading in the industries involved, resulting in huge payouts for members actively trading stocks, options, and other financial assets. On average, House Dems and Republicans had returns at 14.7%. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats were at 15.4% and Senate Republicans under 13%. The top four traders in the options for 2021 in the House include Josh Gottheimer, Ryan's favorite, Jim Langevin, Nancy Pelosi, and Blake Moore. Oh, Nancy Pelosi is on the list. How funny. And Michael, that's what I wanted to ask you about. You said that Democrats are beat by Republicans on messaging, which I disagree with, but I also think even if we accept that premise, it's actually not just messaging. Nancy Pelosi has been doing this for years. You can go back more than a decade. Peter Schweitzer's book, Throw Them All Out, is very, very good on this, particularly when it comes to Pelosi. She's sort of been shameless about this, and that's sort of the point that she made when she was saying, it's the free market, we can't ban the free market. It's actually cronyism, which has nothing to do with the free market. But Michael, how did Democrats find themselves in this situation in the decade after Occupy Wall Street, in the time when Bernie Sanders actually created a close race with the former Secretary of State twice, and a longtime senator and former vice president the next time? How did this happen for the Democratic Party? Why is Democratic leadership so bogged down by these very real problems?
Democrats still haven't learned the lesson of the housing crisis. When we bailed out the banks and let everybody else fail, it sent the wrong message, and we never really recovered from that. And so, Pelosi's independently wealthy, and yes, I think it's inappropriate for her to trade stock. But I think the Democrats as a whole have to figure out how to talk about, how we rebuild not just the middle class, but the lower class. Real quick to the McCarthy thing. Mm-hmm. McCarthy's an empty suit. It's really easy to be in the minority and have no plan. But when he's in the majority, it's going to be a mess. He's going to have to deal with Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's going to have to deal with, the more conservative side and also hold together moderates. I would be really surprised if he's speaker.
Sam, what do you think? Does he have, how locked up does he have the speaker's gavel, and how do you think he will do as speaker? Can he manage that conference?
Of course, yes.
You think he's got it?
It's silly. Yeah. We're going to pick up like a gazillion seats, all because of this all what we're talking about. It's going to be an incredible election for Republicans, these midterms. So we'll have a huge margin, and that'll make his job a lot easier. Yeah, I don't think I'll have a problem at all. Again, I think he's really well liked amongst his colleagues, and you all throwing rocks at him just doubles down on how much they appreciate him taking their rocks and arrows and slings. So,
tell me if you agree with this. His first term might be easier because he'll still be in the majority, but without the White House.
Yeah. Oh, being the speaker with the Democratic president is, Boehner tried to do a deal with Obama that obviously didn't pan out. But yeah, I mean, he's going to keep his troops unified against, President Biden as he's heading into either re-election or they're going to have a pretty messy process in 24. So I don't think he'll have a hard time fighting whatever their agenda is going to be in 2023 and 24. I think his troops will be aligned. I think it'll be nastier. I don't think the Republican Party is going to come back and be like, hey, let's dig deep into, a deregulatory, tax cut agenda. I think it's going to be a little more culture war than maybe people anticipate. But the culture wars keep us pretty unified. Like, we just talked about it. The stock stuff is culture war-y. Defund the police, critical race theory, all those culture war issues that Dems seem to have kind of jumped the shark on. It's really easy to fight when the Dems take the bait every time. So I don't think he's going to have a hard time. But I did love that Gottheimer and Pelosi have these performances with their stocks. Now you know why salt was such a priority, Grim.
Yeah. That's so true.
Which they're still not even going to get done.
No.
What a feckless party. They can't even get their giveaways through.
The campaign ads will write themselves, though.
Well, they're right. They're going to get hit with the ads anyway because they passed it through the House.
Yeah.
100%.
So they passed it through that. What an awful party. What a party. Sam, Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
That's it. Love you.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.